Welcome back. China firing an intercontinental ballistic missile into the Pacific Ocean yesterday, just hours after President Biden's last speech at the UN General Assembly, where Biden called for security in the region. The Pentagon said China notified the U.S. ahead of the test launch. Vice President Kamala Harris, meanwhile, taking aim at former President Trump's China policies yesterday during an economic speech in Pittsburgh. Watch this.
Donald Trump also talked a big game on our trade deficit with China. But it is far lower under our watch than any year of his administration. While he constantly got played by China, I will never hesitate to take swift and strong measures when China undermines the rules of the road at the expense of our workers, our communities, and our companies.
But she hasn't taken swift measures in the 3.5 years since she's been vice president. There have been no swift and hard measures against communist China. Joining me now is Gatestone Institute senior fellow and the author of Plan Red, China's Project to Destroy America, Gordon Chang, back with us. Gordon, your reaction to Kamala Harris's criticism of Trump? She claims he was played by China.
Well, if you look at the analyses done by Chinese economists and observers, they show that Trump was very good to the United States and not very good to China. And they run the numbers. And when you have to do that, you start looking at the tariffs. We now know that China absorbed something like 75 to 81% of the Section 301 tariffs. Those tariffs were significant because they were the first substantial thing that any American president has done about China's theft of U.S. intellectual property. And when we start to think about the reduction in the trade deficit with China, it was because of Trump's tariffs that Biden continued. Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, we've said it over and over again. This administration, the Biden-Harris administration, has done nothing to keep China at bay, you know, from the unleashing COVID, to the COVID cover-up, to the theft of intellectual property, to the fentanyl flowing into America, to police stations on the ground in America. I mean, China has had its way with the Biden administration. That includes Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Meanwhile, Chinese government-linked hackers broke into U.S. internet service providers in recent months, according to the Wall Street Journal. So the hacking is another issue here. This hacking campaign is called Salt Typhoon, reportedly aimed to, quote, establish a foothold within the infrastructure of cable and broadband providers that would allow them to access data stored by the telecommunications companies or launch a damaging cyber attack. Investigators looking into whether they gained access to Cisco systems, routers, and Microsoft is also probing this breach. Gordon, what's your reaction to this hacking activity?
Yeah, the key word here is infrastructure. And we got to remember that in May 2020, President Trump issued an executive order banning the importation into the United States of grid equipment. That was meant to prevent China from taking over our infrastructure. What Biden did on his first day in office, just hours after he took the oath, was to reverse that executive order of President Trump's, therefore allowing Chinese grid equipment into the U.S., and Biden did not put into place protections. So clearly we have a record here that Trump was very good in terms of trying to keep the Chinese out of our infrastructure, which is absolutely critical.
Yeah, and you know, we have to keep asking questions of why he's always been so soft on China. Is it because of what James Comer told us, that he's accepted all this money from China? We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know, but I think that there's an inference there of the millions of dollars that flowed into the Biden family coffers. And Hunter Biden's legal team essentially admitted corruption when they said that all this money was coming to the Biden family as, quote, good faith seed funds, which is, you know, just impossible. Yeah. In a commercial context, nobody would pay good faith seed funds were it not for corruption.
Yeah. Well, let's look at the future here. Nebraska Senator Pete Ricketts and Missouri Senator Eric Schmidt have introduced a series of measures. They did so yesterday, aimed at curbing China's influence on the West. These bills would protect domestic food supply chains, they say, disincentivize university endowments from investing in adversarial entities like China, prevent tax breaks for investing in Chinese companies, stop U.S. market participation and ownership in businesses sanctioned for human rights violations, prohibit index funds from purchasing Chinese stocks, and ban members of the CCP from obtaining student visas to attend American universities. The House Intelligence Committee, meanwhile, is requesting a briefing with the FBI and the SEC on the CCP-linked e-commerce company Temu and its parent company, Pinduoduo over concerns that they're exploiting U.S. data. So I want to get your take on this. I mean, China's central bank has unveiled its biggest stimulus since the pandemic earlier this week in a bid to revive the country's economy. But all of these other things are front and center in terms of what China has been doing and exploiting the U.S. These bills are trying to stop that, Gordon. Your thoughts?
Yeah, these bills are absolutely essential. And, you know, the House had their China week. They had the 25 bills they passed, which were steps in the right direction, but they weren't nearly strong enough, and they didn't cover enough areas. So I'm glad that Senator Ricketts has a bill on the financial sector, which is really important because we have to stop underwriting the enemy, as you say. We have to go a lot further than we are prepared to at this moment. Yeah,
my special, Underwriting the Enemy, is streaming right now on Fox Nation, and it specifically looks at those companies that are trading on the U.S. exchanges that investors may not even realize that they're actually underwriting the enemy by investing in those companies.
Yes, certainly. And, you know, when we talk about underwriting the enemy, you started out with that ICBM launch. You know, Maria, that's a war signal. That's the second war signal that we've gotten from China in the last 10 days, which means that Xi Jinping is about to do something truly horrendous. And we have a Biden administration that is not willing to talk to the American people about the imminence of what China is prepared to do. So, yes, we need to stop underwriting the enemy, but we also need a president to tell the American people to get ready for what could happen. Yeah, Roger Robinson has been so good on all of this, and I know you were in my special along with Roger. Let me get your take on Russia, because Russia appears to be changing its doctrine on the use of nuclear weapons to include Ukraine firing longer-range Western-equipped missiles deep into Russia. China appears to be fully behind this incredibly dangerous threat. I mean, is the U.S. going to do anything about this? Well, the reason why Putin is making those threats was he made those threats prior to invading Ukraine, and Biden backed down. And so Putin thought, well, clearly we can do more of this. And the Chinese started making threats, and the North Koreans started making nuke threats just after the invasion of Ukraine. So Biden opened the door to this. And we have China in the most rapid nuclear buildup since the Cold War. So right now, our enemies are thinking of coordinating nuke attacks on the United States. And, you know, God knows, we're heading into perhaps the worst moment in history. Unbelievable, the way that the Biden-Harris team have left this economy and the world right now. Gordon, thank you so much. We will keep watching all of that. Great conversation. We appreciate your time. Stay with us. We'll be right back.